Negotiation. Negotiation is an interaction, or the process of discussing each individual's position on a topic, and attempting to reach a solution that benefits both parties. All negotiations are similar, and they involve people taking initial positions, offering proposals, counter-proposals and concessions, until finally coming to an agreement. In a negotiation there are two common useful strategies: integrative bargaining and distributive bargaining. Integrative bargaining is otherwise known as win-win bargaining, in which both parties of the negotiation try to find a resolution which benefits them both equally. Imagine two people arguing who gets an orange. Now the obvious resolution to this is to just cut the orange in half. However, if the parties discuss what they want exactly, they will find out that one party needed the peel only and not interested in the flesh, and other party needed the flesh only. This way, through integrative bargaining, both parties gets exactly what they wanted. In integrated negotiations, both parties can walk away winners. Their primary interests don't make them opposing parties, but rather they're convergent or congruent with one another. People talk a lot about win-win deals, but the truth is that negotiations often get competitive and people act in ways that make it difficult to come to an agreement. In addition, the sad truth is that sometimes negotiating means compromising. And if you're dealing with people for whom any compromise is a loss, a win-win deal is impossible. How, then, to get to something resembling a win-win situation? Here are some rules for doing this. Rule number 1. Separate the people from the problem.
In the conventional bargaining setup, positions and counter-positions are exchanged to and fro, and it can easily turn hostile. This happens when one person raises a problem and rather than addressing it, the other person decides to provide counter-argument or counter-positions targeted at undermining the relationship or the person itself. This can produce negative results with both parties losing. In a principal negotiation approach, however, the focus of both the parties involved is to solve the problem at hand. In this approach, the parties sit on the same side of the negotiation and work together to arrive at alternative solutions which are mutually beneficial.
Rule number 2. Identify the interest behind the position.
In the traditional bargaining scenarios, the parties involved tend to take a firm stand on their own position and stick to them throughout. The focus gets limited to personal gain and justification to their choices. Negotiations often turn into fights over who is right and wrong. The problem with this kind of negotiation is that no win-win situation can arise. In a principal negotiation process, the focus is on the interest behind these choices. To achieve this, both the parties should therefore try to focus solely on interest. The parties involved pay attention to each other to understand the motive behind the conditions that the other person is offering. This approach opens many doors to building a fruitful relationship and end up with mutually desired outputs from the negotiation.
Rule number 3. Invert options for mutual gain.
Invent options for mutual gain. This rule could be considered as an extension of rule number 2. The path to reaching a fruitful output from the negotiation is to communicate clearly. For example, knowing the customer's interest will help the salesperson to convince the other person more effectively. Look for the expanded pie solution, and for that to happen, we must understand the interest behind the position and invent options that can provide with mutual gain.
Rule number 4. Introduce independent standards.
What are independent standards? They represent the objective criteria which can be used as a metric for choosing alternatives and defining some limits. The use of independent standards to support a position can provide a confidence in the receiver that the negotiation is happening on a common ground. Now both the parties can view the options considered for the same perspective. However, the use of independent standards to show a party's argument as a wrong is a big no-no. They must be used only to reinforce or support the customer's interest.
Rule number 5. Know your BATNA.
BATNA, or best alternative to a negotiated agreement, is the range of alternatives that one person keeps during a negotiation after understanding the interest of the other person. The interest could include ensuring possibility of future business, expanding the relationship with a range of contacts, getting referrals to other customers, etc. This will help create BATNA for negotiator even if the other person doesn't agree to all the proposals. The negotiator can negotiate from a position of strength and still maintain customer satisfaction and building a trusting relationship with the customer.
If they are able to master these 5 strategies, They can increase both the probability of win-win outcomes and the likelihood of more and more profitable sales. Finally, human behavior is not good or bad. It's complex and beautiful. Thank you.